This is the
Five Starr
Podcast.
Let me talk to you. Hi. What do you guys want to talk about? This is such good shit. Thanks, guys. Back to you.
I almost did it. I almost caved. But I just couldn't bring myself to watch it over the weekend. I recorded SmackDown on the DVR. I was like, well, I might have some time to sit down on Sunday and watch. Then I took a look at some of the results, because I obviously wanted to make sure I wasn't going to completely waste my time. Soon as I saw that they booked another contract signing, I said, nope. Good enough for me. I will catch the show next time. Sorry, not sorry. I've been tolerant of a lot of stuff during the Hunter regime. Nah, I ain't watching a BS contract signing segment when they literally just booked the exact same thing less than a month ago with the same top guys. Just swap out Logan Paul for AJ. I imagine it was the same exact premise. I mean, the Saudi show is next weekend anyway. I know for a fact I'm not watching the go-home show and that PLE is the following day. There's no point. I don't know how much of that King or Queen of the Ring special I'm going to actually pay attention to. The Cody Rhodes Logan Paul title for title thing is absolutely baffling to me. I have no idea why we're doing this thing so soon. Like, if you're going to do a title for title program, my God. At least wait until SummerSlam, am I right? Why the rush? Am I the only one? Am I just that out of touch? I'll probably dive more into my thoughts about that whole topic when we review the match next weekend. I'll at least give it the effort of watching the match in full. Whereas with this King or Queen of the Ring tournament, I don't know how much of that I'm going to actually pay attention to. The last time I cared about anything involving the King of the Ring tournament in WWF, I mean, you're probably dating all the way back to the mid to late 90s when the gimmick still actually meant something. Then at some point during the mid 2000s, like I remember the pay-per-view just went away entirely. Took them like another 10 years to actually bring it back. And it still meant nothing. I mean, the whole purpose of it, I thought, was to try to elevate a mid-card or upper mid-card talent to at least give the people the impression that this guy was going to amount to something at some point. Like he was going to be a world champion. And by the time the Attitude Era rolled around, they had lost the plot entirely. I mean, once Billy Gunn won the thing, that's when I knew they gave up trying. So those are my thoughts with the current WWE product as it stands. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. The last thing I covered with WWE was probably the Backlash special. I know that's only been a few weeks, but I mean, it's been that long since I've actually had the chance to sit down and scrub through any of the content. And I've caught some of the clips on YouTube, but there just hasn't been enough to justify me doing a full SmackDown recap. I just haven't been interested in anything I've been seeing. Even the clips, I'm like, maybe I'll just wait until the PLE and screw the TV shows. But that doesn't mean the Monday show is all for naught, because we got two classic shows to talk about today. both of which had some very interesting material to cover. Before we get into the meaty stuff, make sure you all subscribe to the channel if you have not already. The FSWR channel is on YouTube and Rumble every Monday and Friday. We've got a plethora of classic content we're currently diving into. Not so much the modern wrestling, which, judging by the state of things, doesn't seem like I'm missing anything important. But that also gives me more time to bury a Retro Raw, because that's what the viewers really come to hear me talk about on Mondays. These horrible, god-awful Monday Night Raws from 1995 that just turn me grayer and grayer as the weeks go by. And this was a big week. Here on May 22nd, 1995, where all the HBK marks were wetting their pants in hysterics. He's been gone for over a month, selling the effects of getting powerbombed by Sid. The dumbest possible way for them to turn the guy babyface. And they went there. Shawn had been acting like a total dick to Sid. And when Sid finally had enough of this measly prick on television, he put him in his place. He laid him out. So naturally, the company wanted us to cheer for Shawn and hate Sid. Yeah. WWF logic in the mid-90s. So as they're laying out the timeline in the cold open, and Vince is doing his over-dramatic Hollywood promo spiel, they set up Shawn versus King Kong Bundy for later on in the program. And the real test here was on Bundy. Would he be able to work an effective big guy match with Shawn Michaels without Shawn turning into an unprofessional dick? Place your bets now. We will revisit that conversation later on. The actual opener was Razor Ramon versus Mike Bell. It took Vince approximately 1 minute to totally spoil the King of the Ring tournament, as he and Lawler were running down the current qualifiers. They're trying to figure out who would be the best person to represent the title of King of the Ring. And Vince just point blank goes, "How about King Mabel?" Nudge, nudge. Wink, wink. Guarantee you he popped a Woody as soon as he dropped that line. By the way, they were making this out to be a big deal on commentary, talking about who Razor defeated in order to qualify for the tournament. I was like, oh, this must be big news. Guess who his opponent was? If you looked at the entire roster poll here in 1995, I promise you probably still wouldn't get it. He defeated Mike Blue. Indeed. He beat a Harris twin. They said, "We need to pick the best of the best to represent this prestigious tournament. Razor needs a credible opponent. Who should we go with?" By God, I've got it. How about Mike Blue, pal? Not Jake Blue. That guy sucks. But Mike Blue, yeah, that guy might give Razor a run for his money. Anytime I get the chance to rag on the Harris boys, I will not hesitate. Anywho, Razor beat the shit out of Mike Bell and won. Didn't even need to hit the Razor's edge. He teased it. But then he just shoved Bell down and put his foot on his chest. He also spiked him with one of the best rock bottoms I've ever seen. That was gnarly. But that was all mainly a prelude to what came afterwards. As Razor and Savio are going up the aisleway, Bret Hart storms past them, starts making a beeline down to the commentary desk, and for whatever reason, I've never been able to get over Bret's street attire. It's been a staple in the Bret Hart wardrobe for years. It always looked horrible, but he never changed it. It's the ring jacket with no undershirt and super long baggy jorts. Not the John Cena length jorts, but long enough to where he looked like a disgruntled teen. Of course, he comes down, his hair is a disheveled mess. Gets in Lawler's face and starts reading him the riot act over everything that went down in your house. I actually noted here, in only the way that Bret could ever deliver a pissed off promo, I did not write down everything word for word. I do know that Bret clearly forgot what he was supposed to say at certain points because he just sort of petered out mid-thought and never finished. At one point, he did outright say, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff. And no, those pauses were not unintended. Those were deliberately placed. I've been dealing with a lot of stuff. Haven't we all, Bret? So long story short, took a few minutes to call Jerry a piece of shit and human scum. They actually did have to censor out a few things here. And while Lawler's coddling himself by edging closer to Vince, finally Bret starts tugging on his jacket and asks him, what's it going to take to get his sorry ass in the ring one more time? And that's when all the referees and management file out from the back to get in between them. It was a good little angle. Even though Bret sounds about as believable as a catatonic robot on the microphone. All things considered, though, they have done a reasonably good job keeping this feud fresh over the last year plus. Like, when you realize this dates all the way back to the summer of '93, it's hard to keep stuff like this interesting for that long if you don't have the right talent involved. But they've thrown so many angles and curveballs in there to where the only thing that Bret really wants at this point is a clean win over Jerry. That's it. And he's even letting him name the stipulations. So again, good segment. Discount Bret's delivery. But it still worked. What didn't work, however, them going around for almost 3 goddamn years calling Paul Levesque Hunter Hearst Helmsley. I was already over it by the end of this match he had with John Crystal. And this was his Raw debut match. I seriously don't get it. It boggles my mind. They never saw the 3 initials and said, you know what might work better? What if we just call him Triple H? Instead of referring to him as Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Apparently nobody had 2 brain cells they could rub together for 5 fucking seconds. A natural blue blood, I believe Vince referred to him as. Well, William Regal, this guy was not. That would have been an interesting tag team, though. Because Regal was basically doing this exact same gimmick in WCW a year or two later. He and Hunter would have actually been an interesting tag team combo. My notes are actually pretty wild for this segment. If only because I was genuinely shocked at the offense that I saw Triple H pulling out in this match. If you know anything about the latter years of Hunter's career, I mean, the guy basically had like 3 or 4 moves he would usually do in rotation. High knee, double A spine buster, maybe a pile driver, and the signature pedigree. Not only did Hunter not execute any of these moves here, he also broke out the following: a series of European uppercuts, a spin heel kick, and an RKO. I completely forgot that was Hunter's finish at one point. It was a legit RKO / diamond cutter before that move was ever popularized. And here's frickin' Hunter Hearst Helmsley in the middle of Raw during the dirt worst period. Just hitting diamond cutters. So we can now go on record by saying DDP and Randy Orton were both able to get over the RKO / diamond cut finish well before Triple H ever could. And I'm sure that egomaniac would never live it down if somebody told it to his face. Oh, by the way, this gimmick still sucks. I don't know if that wasn't already abundantly clear. It's bad. It's also weird looking Hunter back in the day when he wasn't on the gas. I'm telling you, man, there's no way he was any more than 240 at this point. Like, he doesn't get legit jacked until, like, the early 2000s. Like, when he comes back ripped. And he's got muscles growing in places that people don't even have places. It's disgusting. So then we had the greatest Raw segment of all time. And by that, I mean, it was equally as dumb, but it also worked because that's exactly what it was designed to be. Everything I said about that Bob Backlund segment the other week, where he came out and talked about his political aspirations, I take back every word of it. Every bad thing I said. This campaign ad parody they ran for Backlund here is he's sitting behind a desk talking about his cabinet plans, what he would do to fix education in America. Like, at the same time, it was total satire. It was also not entirely crazy. That's the scary part. The fact that even in WWF's attempts at being silly, they still managed to make a lot of valid points about how fucked up current American culture is. Backlund was like 20 years ahead of the times, talking about how if he were president, he would require all the Utes to read at least one popular American novel every week. How he'd require all of them to purchase a dictionary to learn new words. He would take out all calculators from public school systems because kids need to learn how to use their minds to solve problems. He actually said, a computer society is a defunct society. Word. And to close it out, his final topic on summer vacations. He would require all students to attend school 12 months out of the year. Can't let those Japanese people dominate the literacy culture. Then they had to sprinkle in the company message, these views do not directly reflect those of the World Wrestling Federation. Got to make sure the company saves face. Yeah, this was pretty great. Have to admit. Although I do not know how the teachers' union would react to the year-round instruction. But, I guess Mr. Backlund had not taken that into account yet. So, well, after we saw Stephanie Wyan give the new family a tour of the Orlando Dream Home, at the same time watching her molest an 11-year-old kid for 2 straight minutes, then we came back for an Allied Power Squash. The only thing notable about it was the split screen they showed where Davey Boy kind of, sort of attempted to give Mabel an electric chair out of the corner. By that, I mean, he got Mabel up on his shoulders, but Mabel basically took his own back bump because there's no way Bulldog was actually going to hold him up there for more than 2 seconds. So yeah, Luger and Davey Boy won that. And then Kama had a match with Barry Horowitz. I seriously cannot remember for the life of me when Kama joined the $1 Million Corporation. I mean, I don't doubt for a minute he's probably been out there for weeks with the rest of the crew. I just don't ever remember seeing Kama affiliated with him. This faction is a literal carbon copy of the NWO circa 1997, where you just got random people joining the group with no explanation. One week you see new people out there standing around Hogan, Hall, and Nash. Just a giant cluster of bodies. And you're like, when the fuck did so-and-so join the group? The answer was they just did. Don't ask questions. So Kama won with the modified single-leg Boston Crab. And then we had the big showdown. Bundy versus Shawn. And remember that question I asked at the top of the report? The one about how long it would take before Shawn started acting like an unprofessional dickwad? Well, it didn't take long to get our answer. He didn't even wait for the bell to ring before the bullshittery began. Right as soon as Shawn gets in there, he starts whiffing these sissy-ass looking punches on Bundy. Makes Bundy look like a total idiot for having to pretend to sell it. Then Shawn dumps him out to the floor. Keep in mind, this happens while they're still playing Shawn's music and while he's still showboating to the crowd and undressing his ring attire. So already, they're making Shawn's opponents look like dopes. And like, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and turn the whole conversation into an HBK hit piece. My predisposition is to call out all the ridiculous crap that Shawn was doing around this period. Now that he was Vince's pet project. Like, he knew he was getting the big push. He knew they were about to make him a world champion within the next year. So while he's running wild on Bundy for a while, he's doing comedy spots with Ted DiBiase on the floor, trying to get a laugh out of the crowd. Finally, Bundy cuts him off and he's able to get a little bit of heat on him. Yeah, I'll give him this. At least Shawn wasn't doing the Hulk Hogan oversell bumps yet. And this was pretty great. Right before the break spot, they show Bam Bam and Diesel watching on this teeny-ass monitor in the back. And like the camera guy standing behind them. So you see these two giant black shadows. And behind them is this grainy 5x5 inch screen. You can barely see what's happening in the ring. And they're on these guys for like a good 30 to 45 seconds. I'm like, can we at least try to pay attention to what's going on in the ring? So they come back. Shawn hits like one dive off the top rope. Hits Bundy with a super kick. And he pins him. That was the entire comeback. 15 seconds, Shawn hits his move, and he wins. And then Diesel and Bam Bam walk out to the ring to do the edgy stare down. Now, technically, if you're following along in the timeline, Shawn and Diesel have not really patched up their differences post-WrestleMania. So they're trying to tease you that there's unresolved tension between the both of them. And of course, it's all just to set up Diesel and Shawn doing the big high five exchange. And that goofy-ass looking hug. The whole thing was about as beautiful as a dead skunk on the side of the road. Have I ever mentioned how much I hated Shawn Michaels around this period? Don't know if that was already obvious. As is the case with many of our WWF recaps, where it only gets progressively worse from here. If you are not already sick of babyface Shawn after one showing, get ready, dog. Got another fucking year plus of this chicanery. And right now their main priority is getting through the King of the Ring. They've already set up the Bam Bam Diesel versus Tatanka Sid match. I mean, I think the rest of the show is mainly built around the tournament rounds. Still amazing we were actually allowed to call it a fucking tournament by this point. If it were 15 years later, they'd be calling it the King of the Ring series of qualifiers. Or something retarded like that. Now, Vince had not totally lost his mind yet. Not until he started taking stunners every goddamn week. Or possibly hanging around with interns too much behind the scenes. But you didn't hear that from me. All right. I've been waiting for 24 hours to say this, so here we go. Tonight, on Retro NXT, it's win or Bo home. Fucking nailed it. And if it weren't for that goddamn motorcycle outside, would have been 80 times better. Indeed, the time has come for Bo Dallas. It's put up or shut up. He wants an NXT title shot. He believes he's deserving of one. He's under the impression that his Bo Leavers think he deserves another shot. The only problem is, one of these parties is totally delusional, which is why the whole thing is so genius. So out comes Bo to get on the stick, does a quick motivational speech to all his Bo Leavers, saying he will not leave them. He's happy to receive the title of Mr. NXT since NXT was built on Bo leaving. And, well, after the announcers got done shit-talking Tim Tebow for whatever reason, trying to compare him to Bo. Again, I have no idea. I don't watch football. I guess Tebow had the same reputation as someone like a Tom Brady did, where the people hated the personality but couldn't get over the simple fact that he was probably really damn good at his job. Yeah, that's the average American in a nutshell right there. Hate on the successful people, because your fat ass can never be that great at anything. Anywho, it's Bo versus Big E, another former NXT champion. I think Big E was actually the one that dropped the title to Bo initially. So we've come full circle. And of course, you might remember this. Big E had that King Kong Bundy gimmick once upon a time, where he won all his matches via 5 counts. Only difference is here, he was actually a babyface, and Bundy was a heel when he worked the 5 count gimmick. Different times. God, man, every time I look back at Big E, it's such a tragic story. It really is. I mean, you see the guy now, he looks perfectly healthy. He hasn't aged a bit in the last 10 years. Still looks exactly the same. He still does publicity for the company. Still tours with them. But the reality is, the guy's been out of the ring for well over 2 years now. He's probably never going to get cleared to wrestle again. All because of a stupid bump he took on TV where he got dropped on the back of his neck and nearly paralyzed. Just like that. The guy hasn't been in the ring since. And probably never will be again. And stranger things have happened in the business. Edge being a notable example of that, but how many years did that take? I mean, what is Big E? Like, he's got to be pushing 40 now, right? Who knows how long he'd even be able to go physically? What a fucking athlete that guy was, though. I mean, his pecs were bigger than my head. So in all honesty, this segment was basically about everything that happened at the finish. I can't really call it a bad match. It just didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things because the people only really were hanging their hat on the end result. They wanted Bo gone from NXT. And that is exactly what we got. And then some. After Bo couldn't put Big E away with the implant DDT, he runs a quick ref distraction spot so he can remove the top turnbuckle pad. But as he tries to run Big E into it, he gets power lifted into the corner. Big E scoops up Bo, hits him with that over-the-shoulder power slam Billy Bob, and he gets the pinfall. And they did show a little preview of the post-match where Bo was huddled up in the corner, basically frothing at the mouth while the fans are chanting the Hey, Hey, Goodbye song at him. I'm telling you, man, Steam should have gotten royalties off WWE for the amount of times that song was chanted over the years. He's going, I can't leave. You people need me. And they showed the exclusive footage coming back from break. Bo's throwing a tantrum at ringside. He kicked the steps and then hurt his foot. Classic heel move there. I mean, he's already emotionally distraught to begin with. Now he has a broken ankle to go with it. And then they show him at the top of the ramp with a microphone, cutting the promo on the fans. And again, it's great material. He goes, I don't often use such crass language, but I just want to let you know that you people stink. I strongly dislike each and every one of you. He's going back and forth with the fans telling them to leave. You leave. Fans go, you leave. And then Bo goes, I'm going to be the bigger man here. I'm going to leave. It's ridiculous. The only thing missing was the laugh track. Actually, you know what this was? It was straight out of Family Matters. Bo Dallas was Steve Urkel arguing with Carl Winslow here. Steve, go home, go home, go home, go home. I don't have to take this. I'm going home. Seriously, that's exactly what this was a parody of. They did a fucking Nick at Night skit here on WWE television. It was amazing. Now, well, I know Bo eventually does leave NXT for good. I'm like 99% sure they do like one or two more angles with him before his official main roster send-off. Not to spoil anything, but I mean, come on, you knew this couldn't be the end of it. It just didn't seem as conclusive as you might imagine. Like you expected more drama. The whole Bo Dallas versus NXT audience feud, it's got to be like one of the most criminally underrated NXT storylines of all time. The over-the-top, self-conceited Bo Dallas gimmick. He was the only guy that could pull that off. Whoever came up with that idea, I hope that individual got a pay raise at the end of the fiscal term. Because he or she earned it. So then we basically had the rest of the program. Somehow they thought anything was going to follow that Bo Dallas segment. I can tell you what did not follow that segment. Was Sami Zayn and Tyler Breeze's confrontation at the interview station, where Breeze told Zayn that he would have a match with him, but not tonight, because he is allegedly busy with other things, such as getting new phone cases and going to balls. There's a euphemism for the decade. It was either Breeze was scheduled to go to a ball, or Breeze was scheduled to go get balls. Judging by the state of him, I would presume the former. Tamina and Paige had a very, very bad match. It was beyond sloppy. Both girls were all over the place in this thing. Tamina Snuka has been a case study in WWE for decades now. How in the fuck can somebody that bad still have a goddamn job after all these years? Remove all the familial connections with Superfly Jimmy for a minute. Remove the Samoan heritage. If you take out those two qualifiers, guarantee this woman would have been fired years ago. She is so awful, dude. Not only has she never improved in the ring during her entire tenure with the company, it's been a constant on and off thing with her where you see her for a little bit, then she vanishes, seemingly for years on end, to the point where when she randomly pops back up, you're like, oh yeah, that woman's still employed. Forgot all about her. I think she's still under contract to this day. I may be wrong. If I cared to look it up, I could tell you. It is mind-boggling, though, dog. She could not figure out how to apply a torture rack. A fucking torture rack. A move that we were doing to each other on trampolines when we were 12. She could not figure it out. She held Paige up on her back, but she had her turned on her side. So it looked like a modified airplane spin position. And then Paige had to pretend like her back was being affected when you could clearly tell that was the only body part not being worked over. Good God. And I have no idea what the fuck that finish was supposed to be. Tamina goes for a Superfly splash, but Paige is supposed to counter it. So in order to make this work, Tamina has to come down and basically land on her feet while she's still hunched over, at which point she can then back up into the corner so Paige can roll her up in a small package and win. This totally defied the laws of physics in every way imaginable. Bad match. Bad return to NXT for Paige. She's still got that ugly butterfly belt. And of course, they keep calling her the anti-diva, which is ironic because she still does like every diva stereotype in the book, including the obnoxious catty scream. The whole thing sucked. Whoever was responsible for putting this match together, they should have been fired and then subsequently set on fire. In that order. Speaking of people who should have been fired for putting matches together and or feuds, Adam Rose versus Camacho in his leopard print Converse shoes. Everything about this segment can eat a dick and then some. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, where would Tonga Loa be a decade out from this point? I would have surely guessed that guy would have retired. Because if I had to work with Adam fucking Rose, I wouldn't want to show my face in the public sphere ever again. Are you kidding? If you would have told me this same guy was going to come back to WWE and be a part of the top storyline on SmackDown, I'd have probably laughed at you. But it goes to show how different regimes see talent contrarily. So not only did the match suck, but then Camacho got himself intentionally counted out because he was too afraid to get back in the ring to fight Adam Rose, the guy that comes out to the ring with an Easter bunny. That was the moment right there that Camacho's career was dead in the water. He could not have left for Japan soon enough. He was counting down the days on his contract. You want to know what the sad thing is, too? I guarantee you they rematch this in another week. I'm not even going to play spoiler and look ahead at the TakeOver card. I will bet money right now they book this match again in a week and Adam Rose goes over clean. If I'm wrong, I will quit this channel and I will never show my face on the internet again. Hold me to it. Then we had Sasha versus Natty in a semifinal round for the NXT Divas title tournament. Totally forgot this was still a thing. And this was beyond my comprehension, but they actually aired this on TV. They showed a split screen where Charlotte was essentially shit-talking Sasha, saying she hopes Sasha doesn't win this match because then Charlotte would have to, direct quote, expose her weakness. To which I asked, what, her mic skills? Oh no, she was talking about her wrestling ability. No, it still wasn't all that great. But here's the baffling part. It's one thing for Charlotte to trash talk her alleged comrade. They showed this when Charlotte and Sasha came out together. All Sasha had to do was look at this footage for 2 seconds and then go over and punch this blonde bimbo in the mouth. It's not that hard. She was right there. What the fuck? How did Sasha just let Charlotte raw dog her like that? What a dick move. Unsurprisingly, guess who did not win this match? Here's what happens. Sasha gives Natty a bulldog out of the corner, but then rolls out to the floor and starts selling her hamstring. I guess she got a Charlie horse or something, I don't know. So Charlotte's out there berating her, telling her to get back in the ring. At which point, Charlotte picks up Sasha, throws her back in, and they have some heated words before Natty grabs Sasha and then taps her out with a sharpshooter. So they have begun starting the issues between Sasha and Charlotte. I don't remember Sasha going babyface this soon, but maybe I'm misremembering the timeline. I don't know. I mean, you know what the problem is? They start things with NXT, but because of the way things shaped up on the main roster when Vince was in charge, it's hard to remember how things actually panned out. I mean, I remember what happens in the tournament finals with Charlotte winning, but I do not remember the fallout with her and Sasha very well. Maybe Sasha does turn babyface sooner than I thought. I mean, I wasn't really honing in on what was happening in the women's division by this point, if you catch my drift. A lot of it was background noise a lot of the time. And then to round out things for the week, Adrian Neville had a match with Curt Hawkins. Simple little enhancement win ahead of Neville's match with Tyson Kidd at TakeOver. The bigger talking head here was all the post-match stuff between Neville and Kidd. They had a little back-and-forth exchange on the stick here, which was kind of meh, all things considered. Kidd was spitting some facts at Neville about his accomplishments in WWE, but that he wants to use the NXT title as a career advancement. So Neville kind of threw it back at him and said that he's not going to use NXT or Neville as a plot device to advance his career aspirations. When TakeOver is done, the only family member of Tyson's that's walking out with gold, as per usual, is his wife, Natty. And that was at least a good bombshell drop at the end there. This, obviously, you can kind of see the Neville versus Kidd feud as something they were kind of building up over time, but it's still in its early development stages. They've been teetering with Tyson Kidd up for a while now on the heel spectrum, but it's clear he hasn't fully turned yet. He has been getting mouthy in his promos, but that's about it. I think that people kind of saw this as a beginning chapter of something bigger for after TakeOver. It is definitely missing a spark. It's still kind of a babyface feud, but it doesn't really have any kind of heat. So we'll see how they modify things after TakeOver. Should be a good title match regardless. I've always been a fan of Neville, or Pac, whatever he goes by. Not really a fan of the people with whom he associates. I think he gets in his own way a lot of the time. But when booked well, and he's got the right dance partner, the guy's fucking great. WWE missed the boat with him. AEW's fucked him up in more ways than one. And like I always say with Tyson Kidd, he was great in his prime before the abrupt retirement. When I kind of look at the landscape of everything going on in the card right now, this is kind of the hook for next week's TakeOver special. And again, we'll talk about the NXT event next time. It's like, I think it's 5 matches in total. It is technically the first TakeOver if you discount the NXT Arrival show, which I guess wasn't an official TakeOver event. I would not say they've done the best job building up to this card, but we'll see how it holds up. TakeOvers always get the admiration for being instant classics. I would probably dispute that notion, but we'll try and be methodical with how we break it down. I don't want to immediately poo-poo on all the internet peons out there, but 99% of the time they're wrong. But we'll save that conversation for next time as we're going to wrap things up here on the FSWR Monday edition. Thanks everybody for tuning in to watch. And when I resume with everything Friday, it'll be the regular classic rundown. I'll see if I have time to review SmackDown next weekend, but it's all going to depend on how busy I am. I didn't have the time to sit down and watch this weekend, so you're getting the 2 retro reports, and that's it. To be honest with you, I don't think I really need to see another contract signing. So, figuring I'm not missing out on anything important, we'll leave it at that. So thanks everybody for watching, and take care. Peace out.